All right, it's the first of the month, so that means it's time for another competitive Pauper deck tech. This week, in honor of the Palace Sentinels price cutting in half in the last month to under or around 10 ticks per card, I'm going to be doing a deck tech that I've been wanting to play for a while. Boros Monarch. Let's start with the creatures. We got 4 Glint Hawk, which is 1 mana for a 2/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you have to sacrifice it unless you return an artifact you control to its owner's hand. So, Glint Hawk, you can be really aggro with it on turn 1 if you know you're in the right matchup, but for the most part, you're just trying to balance the value artifacts that you have in the deck. 4 of Thraben Inspector, the best 1-drop white creature. When it enters the battlefield, you get to investigate, so you get to create a colorless clue token that has 2 sacrifice this artifact and draw a card. So it's a buy now, pay later card draw, which is useful in this deck. It adds to your artifact count for some cards in the deck, and it's useful late game just to be able to crack some clues when you got nothing else to do. Or, of course, Eye Fisher, a 2 mana 2/3 with a downside of having to return a permanent you control to its owner's hand. For the most part, you're going to be returning Thraben Inspectors, a few lands, maybe some gain lands, or your value artifacts that are built into the deck as your card draw engine. 2 of Seeker of the Way helps stabilize versus aggro deck. It is a 2 mana Grizzly Bear, so it's a 2 mana 2/2 with prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Secret Way also gains lifelink until end of turn. So it gets +1/+1 from the prowess, so you play a cheap artifact and it becomes a 3/3 lifelink or attacking on turn. And 3 of Namesake card of the deck, Palace Sentinels. The main cost prohibitor of the deck, the really expensive card in the deck. Like I said, the card's cut in half in the last month for whatever reason. Hopefully the price stabilizes at about 10 because 20 ticks a card for a common that's literally only released a year and a half ago is a bit ridiculous. But it's a 2/4 for 4, and when it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. So you get this emblem, kind of like a Planeswalker emblem, that'll draw you an extra card in your end step. If an opponent deals combat damage to you, they may take the monarchy from you. This deck is really well designed to make sure once you play your Palace Sentinels and become the Monarch, you're not going to give it up. Let's move along to the instant and sorcery package. We have a 1 of Firebolt, which is 1 red mana sorcery for 2 damage to any target, so target creature or player in the Pauper format. Planeswalkers are a target, but it's not something you can actually target. The main deal on this is to flashback for 4 to red. It's really useful. You can play it early game and still leave it up to chip in the last few points of damage late game. Useful for crowd control. 4 of Galvanic Blast. It is a 1 red mana instant, can deal 2 damage to any target. Metalcraft, if you have 3 or more artifacts in the battlefield under your control, it instead does 4 damage to any target instead. So, upside of being a better lightning bolt for 1 red mana at instant speed and can even go face. Speaking of lightning bolts, we have a 4 of Lightning Bolt. 3 damage to any target. Magic the way it was intended. 3 to the face, 1 red mana. Beautiful. 2 of Prismatic Strands. Having a fog main board might seem a little crazy from other formats, but Prismatic Strands is a really useful fog that can prevent any damage from any source of the chosen color. And with a low cost of just having to tap a white creature to flash it back out of the graveyard, it can just single-handedly win you games versus certain matchups. Nice way to keep burn from going off in 1 turn. Just sneak 1 of those in the yard and you're good to go. 2 of Battle Screech. 4 mana, creates 2/1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying. You can also flash it back by tapping 3 untapped white creatures you control. Those creatures don't have to worry about summoning sickness because it doesn't use the tap symbol. You just have to tap 3 creatures. So just the 2 tokens it created plus a 3rd creature on the board is enough to be able to get your other tokens. Just be careful when doing that in the face of a black deck, because there's a lot of different ways that can get blown out, or even a red deck with electricities and stuff can clean that up pretty handily. Alright, we're going to disregard the 2 lands that are under the artifact slide here. The 4 of Ancient Den and the 4 of Great Furnace is a really nice feature that the Pauper format has over, say, Modern, for example, where these are banned. It gives you an ability to have artifacts in your land base and helps for the metal craft for turning on Galvanic Blast. But for the most part, they're just there for lands. Other artifacts in the deck are 3 of Alchemist Vial. It enters battlefield, draw a card. Really important in the deck. Pick it up with the Glint Hawks and your core Skyfishers. Be able to replay them, draw extra cards, keep churning through the deck. White and red doesn't have a lot of card advantage, but this package of Alchemist Vial and Prophetic Prism, which is color fixing in a deck that really doesn't need it, but it's mostly there just because it says you can draw a card. This is the main draw engine here of the deck. Otherwise, we have 2 of main board Journey to Nowhere. Be able to answer a creature of any size on the battlefield. Kills pretty much anything that you can't wipe away with a Galvanic Blast. Moving on to the land package, we got the 4 Ancient Den. Fortunately, it does enter the battlefield untapped, so it does help with your fast mana. Taps for white. Great Furnace, same thing. Enters the battlefield. It's an artifact. Taps for red. Comes into play untapped. I'm only running 2 of Boros Garrisons. A lot of the lists do run 4, but I have issues running more than 2 to 3 of them. When they enter the battlefield, you have to return another land you control to your hand, and they enter the battlefield tapped. They do add 2 mana as opposed to 1 when you tap it, but the awkwardness of only having bounce lands in your hand means you got to mulligan a lot more often than I like to do. So I went down to 2, and I actually upped the land count 1 compared to the standard lists, which that 1 land I actually brought in that was extra was the Forgotten Cave. It's just a cycle land, enters the battlefield tapped, 1 red mana, you can cycle it away if you don't need it later on. Useful to pick up with the Boros Garrisons to get further into your deck. 1 of Mortuary Mire, mostly for the synergy with the core Skyfisher in a removal heavy matchup. The Mortuary Mires can be their own perpetual unkillable engine of play the Mortuary Mire, get the Skyfisher back, play another Skyfisher, you can pick it back up into your hand again, and just keep looping the process as long as you hold 1 Skyfish in your hand. But it can really churn through a lot of removal that would otherwise be a problem. They're effectively colorless lands in this deck because there's nothing that actually needs swamps. 2 mountains, 2 plains, 2 secluded steppes, more cycling lands, same functionality as the Forgotten Cave. They enter the battlefield tapped, they tap for white, and they can cycle for also tapping 1 white mana and discarding. I got 4 Windscarred Crags. Apparently, I don't have all 4 of the same version. Moving on to the sideboard, I have 1 Standard Bearer for your Boggles type matchups, 2 Core Sanctifiers to help fight through Boggles and artifact heavy matchups like Affinity. I guess you could also braid it in the mirror to try to blow up lands, but that probably isn't the best strategy in the world. 3 of Electricity to deal with fairies and elves. 2 Gorilla Shaman to really stick it to Affinity. Just blow up all their lands. 3 Pyroblast for blue matchups. So more fairy hate. 2 Relic of Progenitus to fight versus graveyard matchups. And 2 Navigator's Compass. Typically, these are lone missionaries in the sideboard. Like, these are mainly brought in versus Burn and mostly aggro type matchups. But Burn has such prevalent ways to remove a 2 mana 2/1. Every spell in their deck, even an unlandfalled Searing Blaze, can kill it off the board. With the Navigator's Compass in that spot, you're gaining 1 less life, but it's protected versus a lot more than removal. So my theory is you can play it more, cycle it through more, pull out a Prophetic Prism or 2, and just kind of bounce back and forth between 1 or the 2 or the between the prophetic prism and the navigator's compass to gain life when you need to stay above that threshold where burn can just one-shot you and still draw cards and churn through your deck. It's something I'm trying out. I've played a couple of games versus burn with it, and it has been a decision making. They had the lightning bolt to get rid of the creature if this was if it was a creature, not the artifact, and they didn't print in the artifact ape. So I was able to jank out a win that way. And I ended up gaining, my opponent with the burn deck ended up doing over 30 damage to my face, but the navigator's compass coming down again and again and again managed to stabilize the game and push through. I'm going to be running this through a league this week. Hopefully, some of it will be on Twitch, some of it will be recorded. I don't know how long the games are going to go. This is a grindier deck, so the games will take a while. Thanks for watching the video. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing. You can follow me on Twitter @GeekLukeG. This is Couch Troll Brewing.